Before I get started, obviously on Michigan State for Sunday, we sent out the press release on Aaron, and I meant exactly what I said in the press release, and I think he does as well. It's one of those deals where it made sense after several discussions that he and I had over the last week to week and a half. I think it made sense for us to part ways, obviously. I think the world of Aaron, and I thank him and his family for the opportunity to coach him. We're going to do nothing but support him and help him. I want Aaron to be successful as a human being, as a student, as he continues to finish up here pursuing his degree from Illinois, and I'm confident that he will do that. And then help him as a player as well. Ultimately at the end of the day, those guys are in our family once they come in, and it's certainly no different whenever that time comes when they exit. It's different for different guys. So, we wish him nothing but the best, and we're going to do everything we can in our power, certainly, to help him. Obviously, for us, we've had a week off. We've been able to take a couple days off here, which has been good for us. I think getting mentally and physically refreshed, we talk a lot about that, especially in February and March. We've tried to practice intelligently, at the same time trying to keep a little bit of an edge to us, and being a little bit more physical, certainly than we were on Sunday. I didn't think we had it on Sunday, for whatever reason. That's on me. We've got to get that figured out and get that edge back here pretty quickly. Playing, certainly you could debatably say the hottest team in our league, or one of them certainly, heading into Sunday's game. So, we'll practice today. We'll practice tomorrow. This week has been a blend of us getting better, focusing on the things that we need to improve, while at the same time preparing for Michigan State. Questions?
Is there any counterpunching when you play a team so recently, 2 weeks later? Do you expect changes? Or
I always say familiarity breeds content. Obviously there will be some changes, I'm sure, by them. A few. There'll be some by us. Adjustments. But at the end of the day, you're in February. You kind of are who you are, and you're trying to do what you do and what you bring to the table, Jim, at a high level. I certainly think that we did some things like that the first go-round, but I also thought they were watching the film now. Obviously, we've watched it in great detail. I think we can execute better than what we did in Game 1. We certainly did some good things there. I thought we were certainly had some physical plays. I thought we had some soft plays. We've got to be more consistent with that also here heading into Game 2.
How does the addition of Ray change the matchups?
Well, I think maybe the biggest difference in such a short period of time, for them, watching them, they're playing Tum more and starting him. And for us, then obviously we've brought back Ray. So it changes it a little bit, Rob. We've talked about that when you add one guy, or you change a rotation, or your lineup a little bit, or it can change your team. It can ripple affect it a little bit one way or the other. I think for us it's been good. I've looked at our points per possession, both offensively and defensively, with Ray playing. And, I think the encouraging thing for us is that Ray's not totally Ray Rice yet, but he's getting closer, which is a good thing. I know he's looking forward to competing on Sunday. I think this week off has helped him from a conditioning standpoint. It's helped him from a timing standpoint. We were able to scrimmage some earlier in the week. I thought that was good for him, trying to simulate that type of action more, get more reps under his belt, so to speak. So, we're excited and certainly glad that we have him out there on Sunday.
It's changed the rotation a little bit too, and you said you were going to figure out more this week. What have you figured out this week during practice?
Well, obviously, for us, we added Ray, so that gives us a little bit more depth, on the perimeter, which is a good thing. And figuring out, one thing it does, I think, Jeremy, is it gives us options to go a lot of different ways. We can play a lot of different lineups. And we did that really over the last couple games. We can go big, we can go small, we can, match up differently. Ray is such an elite level defender when he's locked in that he gives you that luxury on that end. And then obviously he contributes, with the rebounding as well for his position. I think he's really good there also. And, he's trying to figure out his way a little bit here back this second go-round. I just love his attitude and disposition. The number of people that have said to me they watched, both or one of the and just were amazed at how he just played to win. He didn't seem to have like any agenda. He's just playing, and I think that that credit goes to Ray, for his mindset and his ability to adjust to our team. Here he is. This, was obviously having a great year at the time of the injury individually, but for his willingness to adjust to our team and just kind of focus on trying to help our team, I think really shows a lot of maturity from Ray's standpoint.
Coach, where are you defensively right now between the zone, the man-to-man? And I realize every team is different, but have you analyzed looking back through the different games where you stand, which is the best maybe?
Yeah, we've been effective in both in different games, Lauren, and then there's other games where we haven't been as good in one or the other. I'd like to see us be more consistent there. I do think our defensive consistency has been better here of late. Offensively, I'd like to see a little bit more consistency there. I thought in the last week in the two games, I thought in the Michigan game we had a lot of great shots and we just didn't make some of them. I thought our execution against Wisconsin was lacking a little bit more than maybe that it did in the Michigan game on the offensive end. So, we'll have to try to get those things cleaned up. We've been working on those things diligently this week.
You don't feel like you're leaning one way or the other?
No, it's really, I think both of them, at the end of the day, I think we have to have both of them ready here for the close of the season.
About Black, didn't play many minutes last game. What are your thoughts there? What's happening?
Well, I hope we can take a couple more steps forward with him, Lauren. Obviously, he's really talented. I love his physical aggressiveness. We talked about that for some time. He had an odd week last week. We had the Michigan game, which they were playing. They went through a lot of certainly roster change just like we have, and they played really small last Thursday. And, so we ended up going with a little bit different matchup there in that one. And then the Wisconsin game, he gets banged with 2 fouls, 2 or 3 minutes into the game. And then I gave him, I played him anyway there in the first half with 2 fouls. And then when we took him back out to protect him from getting the third foul, Colbert played really, really well. And so he ended up playing a few more minutes there in the second half based on how he played. But at the end of the day, we're going to need everybody. I mean, that's the great thing now, certainly about having Ray back, having Colbert start to evolve. I think it gives us even more depth.
How have you balanced the adversity this year? You talk about overcoming adversity a lot. From the time Tracy got hurt till now, and you're still at your best mark in the conference in your 3 years here. How do you balance that?
Well, I think a lot of that certainly credit goes to the captains, in particular, Nana and Tracy. Those guys are pretty tough guys, and they understand. They've been through so much that they understand that this is a one-day-at-a-time deal, and you've got to play the cards that you're dealt. They're great messengers to have in the locker room because, I'm around them a few hours every day, but the rest of the time, they live together, they eat together, they do about everything together. So I think a lot of that is reflective of those guys, and that, I think they're about the right things. I think our team has the right mindset right now, which is important down the stretch. We've just got to execute some little things a little bit better than what we're doing right now if we want to reach our potential. Those little things matter. Screening matters. Cutting hard matters. Making winning plays matters, obviously. Not fouling jump shooters, executing late game, taking care of the ball, executing different coverages defensively, all the little nuances of all that. We're in February, and we've got to be more consistent, I think, with that execution piece on both sides of the ball for us to reach our potential.
As a coach, have you felt like managed blow after blow on or off the court?
Not really. I've seen a lot in 20 years. You got to roll with the punches a little bit, so to speak, and it is what it is. You got to try to figure it out. I think we've taken that approach of kind of the next man up or next Illini up, and guys have done a good job of that.
Recruited Aaron, had some expectations. Why didn't it work out?
Well, I don't want to get into great detail. It's between me and Aaron and his family. Obviously, I addressed that in the press release, but I wish him nothing but the best. I want him to do really well, as I do all the guys that come into our program and come out of our program. Whether it's it doesn't matter. There's different ways guys leave. There's professionally. There's they graduate. There's once you're in, and certainly we're here to help him, and we're going to be here to help him as he makes a transition to kind of that next phase.
Does it change you guys short term and long term?
I'm more concerned about short term right now. I'm not even looking at it long term. He and I had some discussions about both. But at the end of the day, I want him to be happy. At the end of the day, I want him to be happy.
How do you feel about freshmen and eligibility?
Yeah, that came up. Derek was telling me that. I'm so oblivious to. Thank goodness I wasn't oblivious to Valentine's Day. That would have got me in real trouble. But everything that's going on around me, I'm not great with that, this time of year. But DB did tell me there was some discussion about it. We've not had any discussions about it. I understand that it's not a Big Ten proposal. But none of us coaches have had discussions about it. We haven't talked about it. So that's obviously a hot topic right now with some things that have been said here in the last few days, whatever, nationally. But I really haven't spent a ton of time thinking about it, to be honest.
In the world of hurt if you couldn't use freshmen last year.
Yeah, it's a great point, Tup. Yeah, that's a great point. Because we played an awful lot of them, didn't we?
You mentioned Tum Tum. What's he add to the team that they hadn't had before?
Well, obviously, he has great speed. Seems to understand his role very well. Really ignites our transition game. Defends. Seems to be a guy that plays to win and competes just from the outside looking in. Certainly, I don't coach him every day, but love his competitiveness, love his speed. Like I said, he defends. He seems to understand his role, which sometimes can be difficult for freshmen. And those are certainly the things I see from the outside looking in.
Coach Izzo, after you beat him, said that to the media that he realized that he was going to have to play tum-tum more. So I was curious, was it something about the way Jalen Tate played in that game or any other Illini?
I don't know. Obviously he coaches his team, Rob, and makes those decisions, based on what's best for his team. You'd have to ask him that. I do think Jalen's certainly done a good job for us. And some of those same things that Jeremy and I were talking about there with Tum Tum, I think Jalen has done, some of that for us, which is a good thing.
I guess I'll follow up with asking a question that I asked a month ago. Does Jalen's development progression take some of the pressure off to land another point guard for next year?
Yeah, I don't look at it that way, Rob. I don't. I think, and I said this last time it came up, depth. If this year hasn't taught any of us in here, you guys that follow us, and certainly our staff and me, that you have to have depth. I don't want certainly injuries or things like that to happen in any year. No coach would prefer that. But I look at it a little bit as glass half full. I look back and say, what if, the Lord would have deemed that particular year would have been year one here? That would have been very interesting. So I've learned depth, and the more guys that you have that can play multiple positions. I know some coaches that they don't have enough guys, especially at that position. So, for us, we're always trying to add depth. We always want depth at all those positions. We're glad that our guys are developing and getting better. But if we have an opportunity to get better through recruiting and it's an Illini guy and we think it makes sense and it fits, then we're certainly going to do that.
You guys got to go down the road a little bit this week. Just what's the response to what you guys have done this year? You talked about fans have, but how about recruits and coaches?
What was the first part, Jeremy?
You guys been out on the road a little bit.
Yeah, recruiting. Yeah.
What's been the response to this season?
It's been good. People I think have been very optimistic. Illini fans seem to be pretty excited about the position that the guys have put themselves in here to have an opportunity to do some pretty cool things. We got to take it one day at a time, one game at a time. But I think people understand how hard those guys have played, the way they've dug deep, the heart they've played with, the way that they've overcame different obstacles and viewed those as opportunities, and their mindset. And I've always said this about Illinois people. I grew up in the Midwest, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but there's a blue collar mentality. I think people appreciate that. I think that's why our fans have been so great. I mean, they've been phenomenal. I think they get it, they understand it, and we're obviously counting on them again on Sunday.
Phone lines, any questions from you guys?
Yeah, this is Shannon. I remember after the Wisconsin game, Malcolm Hill was talking about I think he used the word angry, that Michigan State's going to come in really angry. Do you expect it to be that type of emotional game, and how do you talk to your team maybe about that aspect of it?
Sure, I'm obviously, Shannon, more worried about what we can control and us, but, sure, I mean, the teams in our league are good, they're competitive, they're well coached. I think anytime any of us, get beat in a game in game one against an opponent, does that add a little bit of edge to a team, heading into the second time they play them? Sure. I mean, I think that's true of, the other 13 teams in the league as well. I just think that's part of it. I didn't even know he had said that, but I'm glad to hear that he's maturing and starts to understand those things a little bit better. I'll tell him that you shared that with me, Shannon.
I might not put him on right exactly there, so.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I just think that's part of it, I think it's part of it.
I also had a question just about free throws. You guys have been at the top of the nation, one of the top 2 teams throughout the year. And
You and Tupper.
I'm curious, do you feel like is that a characteristic guys just have, a skill guys just have? I know you can work on it with guys, but how does your team maintain that? And I don't know, maybe you can talk about what you guys work on with that, and just, is it kind of a natural thing some people just have and some people don't?
I think we're blessed, Shannon, that we have good shooters and guys that have the poise to step up, and they've been able to do that, fortunately for us all year. But honestly, I don't talk a whole lot especially in the season, once we start the season, about technique with that stuff. The one thing I will tell you is that we do the same thing every day, and I literally mean every day. You shoot them at the same time, shoot the same amount, have the same contest, have the same consequences, have the same rewards every single day for 3 years. So that's kind of part of just my philosophy of shooting them. But other coaches may view it a little bit differently. But that's kind of how we work free throws in season.